My name is Matt. I want to tell a story that happened to me not too long ago. My wife Emily and I had been married for several years, and it seemed like we had a happy family. We had our routines, our shared moments, and everything seemed stable. But something changed. It was spring, and Emily's niece, Grace, came to visit us. She was a young and attractive girl, and I couldn't help but notice her charm. Grace had such energy, such a spark in her that it was hard not to notice. At the same time, I loved my wife, but our life gradually turned into a predictable routine. We were comfortable, but the passion that had once defined our relationship had dulled over time. Grace was in her 20s, full of life, and her presence made me feel attractive again. It was refreshing to have such a lively person around, so different from the monotony that had taken over my life. Gradually, I began to feel an unexpected connection with her, and she seemed intriguing in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I tried to push those thoughts away because she was Emily's niece, almost like a daughter to us. I knew it was wrong, but the feelings were there, and they were growing stronger. By a cruel coincidence, Emily had to leave immediately to care for her sick mother. Grace stayed behind because she needed to focus on her exams, and she wanted to be able to study without any distractions. It was Friday night. I went out with some friends, had a few beers, and ended the evening in the sauna. I felt relaxed and in a good mood when I returned home, slightly tipsy. The streets were quiet, and I remember feeling a strange sense of anticipation as I approached our apartment. When I walked in, Grace was already waiting for me. As I entered the apartment, I barely had time to take off my shoes. The alcohol had upset my equilibrium, and everything seemed a little surreal. Then she came out of her room in a short silk robe that was a little loose. There was a candlelit dinner on the table and untouched plates. It was obvious that she had made an effort, but it never came to dinner. I walked over to her, put my arm around her waist, and felt a shiver run through my body. The closeness between us was electric. In that moment, I wasn't thinking about Emily. I wasn't thinking about the consequences. I was completely focused on Grace, on her warmth, her scent, and the way she looked at me. I was consumed with the desire to be with her, and all rational thoughts in my head just disappeared. I wanted to feel alive again, and she was there for me, giving me that chance. I thought of a way to rid her of her robe, and in an instant I did just that. Exactly what you think happened. My wife never found out about the adventure. We both knew it was wrong, but there was something inevitable about that night, as if we were caught up in a moment from which we couldn't get out. The next morning, there was an unspoken understanding between us. We didn't talk about what had happened, but the tension persisted. I felt ashamed in front of Emily, but I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Some part of me wanted to pretend it never happened, but another part of me couldn't forget how exciting it had been. Grace went back to studying, and I tried to act like nothing had changed. But deep down, I knew that something had changed, and there would be no going back the way it was. It was a secret that we both carried inside of us, and that had always been underneath the surface.